Hello everyone and welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is part 9 of my update sequence. Like I've said in past videos, I'm trying to include about 1.5 to 2 years of updates, of progress into this video sequence. The reason I'm doing it in parts is because I can only upload 15 minutes at a time on YouTube for free. If you take a look, you're going to notice that you'll see the red lines moving around, and that's because the train is entering different blocks on my block detection. So that's something I've been working on as well, and we'll have another video on how I did that as part of my update. There is a whole playlist of my block detection projects on my channel, so if you want to check that out, go ahead and do so you can see how far I've gotten with that. But as my train comes around, my coal train, which is something that I run at every video pretty much, I want to show you a little flyby. I'm going to take you on my virtual drone here just to kind of run you through everything that I've done in the past. So as I go through, I want you to notice this backdrop. It's a photograph from Backdrop Junction, and the company and the guy that runs it does great work. I highly recommend that. If you want to get some really nice quality backdrops like this, very focused, very sharp, and very detailed. And the nice thing is that he will actually invert these backdrops. So this is really a 6-foot section that is spliced right here, where this big old tree is right here. And if I get real close, you can see the seam barely. I'm so glad the way that came out so good. But it's basically the same exact 6-foot section in reverse. But as you look at the whole thing, you could barely tell that that's what's happening here. I'll take you through again. So here's where it starts. And as you can tell, it's very hard for the eye to catch that one spot there before it reverses, and now it's in the opposite direction. So, you know, it's nice to have that much backdrop covered, and only with one backdrop photo. And I'm going to triple it. So now I'm going to reverse it again, connect it to that part, and then take it across the back here. I do things backwards all the time and the wrong way. So I wanted to just show you what I had to do. Normally, people that are smart will put the backdrop in first and then add all the trackage, all the elevation, all the, you know, the scenery and the ballast and all that stuff. No, I had to do it completely backwards. I finished the entire scene, and then I decided that I was going to shove some sticky paper inside that, and it was a nightmare. It was very, very difficult, but I did come up with a little trick, which I'll discuss in a different video, on how to do that without getting the paper all wrinkled up and bunched up and misaligned and all that stuff. But I think that came out pretty good. I couldn't get away with it here because I had, if you can imagine, I had to hold a 6-foot section up without the, you know, without the covered part in the back, so it was sticking to everything. And I'm surprised I even got it this far. But right at the end here, I could not get it to work, so it did wrinkle up right here. But the good news is that right there, all this is going to be covered anyway with trees. There's going to be a bunch of trees back there, so it doesn't really matter. So as I fly you through, this is the town that we discussed in previous videos. This is the paint facility. This is the mountain and the tunnel, which is a scene break, just to kind of take the eye away from the other side. And as it comes up here, we discussed how this is the short line, and this is the main coming through again and then splitting again right at the lumber facility, which is the last video I shot. This is part 8. So in part 8, we explained all of this. And so I'm going to take you now in part 9 through this stretch right here. Now, as you can tell, there's not much going on here on purpose. The whole point is that when I run my trains from here, by the way, this is my central location, so I designed this on purpose this way so I can see every part of the layout from this central location in case I'm running trains by myself. So I can run everything from here, and the parts that I cannot see back there behind which is not a lot, behind the wall, I can pick up on the block detection and I can see where the train is heading. So that's part of why I decided to do that. But you know, it's nice to be able to see the trains come through and not worry about them. They, you know, this is going to run around. I've been running around for about a half hour now, and I haven't had to even pay attention to it. So as we get to this section, what you're going to notice is that it's meant to look like very, you know, unsettled with no structures, no houses, or no buildings or things like that. And just to make it seem like it's, you know, in a very far away place, middle of nowhere kind of thing. And what I want to show you is the two tracks separately. So here's a short line, this one here. That track is meant to, you know, to handle local trains and, like, you know, low speeds and nothing too crazy. It's supposed to be a lower profile track, but I decided to just play it safe and just stay with the code 55 throughout this valley here. I love the way this valley came out as far as scenery. This was one of my first projects ever on this layout as far as scenery. And what I did is I cut the benchwork down to make this contour happen here. And I'm really happy with that. So as it goes through, it goes into the first bridge, which was one of my original bridges from another layout. This one here. I'm sure a lot of you have it or have seen it before. I forget what company makes it, but I was worried because I had already cut this section out to include the second bridge here, and I could not find this bridge anywhere. It was like impossible. And finally, one day on eBay, one popped up, and I mean, I bought it, obviously, but it must have been from like 1970 something, because the box was about to turn into dust, and it was just, you know, very, very old. You can tell that it was like a very old model, even though they made it, you know, even 10 years ago they made another run or so of it. But this one must have been one of the original ones that they put through, because even the plastic feels a little bit different than this. This feels a little bit more gummy, so to speak. This is like a really hard, almost like brittle plastic, so I had to be careful with it because it was the only one I could find. So it takes you through this valley here with the water scene, which I love how this came out. And then obviously it continues here, it ducks under the other tracks and heads into the next mountain, which is the tunnel right there, which I have to fix, just the entranceway there, and I have to finish painting all this and detailing. And that spits you out on the other side of the mountain. So coming on the reverse, this is my double main, which comes from the other side of the layout. I still have to obviously finish all the ballasting and weathering and all that. But then I have a crossover here in case I want to get to the facility, which is only accessible from the inner track here. So if I have a train coming this way, I could just cut in, or it could be used as a runaround if I need to somehow get to the other part of the layout. So, you know, these double track bridges I had from a previous layout. The only thing I did differently is that I weathered all the, you know, the beams and stuff as much as I could. So as the train comes through here, I want to just show you how that double main line is set up, which I think it came out really nice. And I love watching the train come through right next to this other local train and through this little S-curve here, you know, over the water. It's just a really nice scene here. I've gotten some really nice pictures, and super happy with this entire side of the layout. No problems with electrical stuff or anything like that. So I'll take you over to the water now. So here in the water scene, I just, you know, I wasn't even thinking that far ahead. All I wanted to do was have these two bridges and then some kind of middle island here. But I went real deep on the valley because I love these like cliffs and drops on both ends here. So, I mean, talk about good pictures. This is a great little opportunity to get some nice shots here of the trains. And even more on this side, because I love the rock here in the background and the way it kind of, you know, snakes over. The water is Envirotex, just simple, straight up Envirotex. Came out pretty good. I got a little bit of like a haze in there, but you can barely tell. And I'll probably put a little ripple, you know, effect on top because, you know, obviously most rivers are not glass like this. So for it to be that still is very unnatural. There's one tree right here, which will not be the case in the future. I'm trying to put a few more. I don't want to put a lot because then it blocks me from cleaning track. So I don't want all that hindrance in the way, all that stuff blocking my hand. But I want you to notice one thing in the back here. I actually found this picture online. Let's see if I can zoom in. This is just you know, a picture of a river with boulders, and it's just printed out on paper, nothing special. As you can see the top right now. That'll be covered, but what I liked was that the water kind of matched, the color kind of matched what I was doing here with my water, and I was able to find some rocks in my backyard that matched those boulders back there in the photograph, which are these guys here. So as you look at it this way, it almost looks like it continues, with the exception of all the dust, obviously. I gotta clean that, but I thought that blended in very nicely, and it looks like it just continues in the background there. So that was one of my success stories there with that. And then the only thing that's left to do here, aside from little things here and there, is I'm trying to figure out another photo backdrop for this section here. But I keep running into the same problem because I have a river here, and then I have the valley here, which is lower, and then there's a facility here. So it's either, I've done things in the past that have looked great, but it's either it looks great here and not here, or vice versa. It looks great here, and then it looks ridiculous over there. So I got to figure out a way around that. If you have any suggestions, I'll be more than happy to look into whatever you guys recommend. And then over here, I decided to put this abandoned house here, which was just an old kit that I had. And I added holes and grass coming out of the roof, and, you know, all kinds of, you know, old beat up aspects here to make it look really old and abandoned. I even have like a wire mesh here in the front, you know, and I just basically took my soldering iron and melted holes into things and just broke the windows. I took one window out back here and just turned it sideways a little bit to make it look like it's falling off the frame. The beat up car there, abandoned, all that. But, you know, most people that have seen my layout have said, well, that's very, very close to the track. Yes, I agree. Totally. But this past summer, I was in Pennsylvania and I saw a house that was just as close, even closer. The train was like basically kissing the roof line. So that's my prototypical Pennsylvania house, I guess. We'll have to go with that story. This grass and whatever hay and wheat, whatever I made out of just a welcome mat. Actually, this one here, just a welcome mat, and I just took it from the side there, just ripped it out. I think I trimmed it a little bit, but that's what that is there. I think it looks pretty cool. So that's basically it. Now, as the track ducks under the other double mains here, I have this area here, which I might just make it nothing. But I was thinking of making like an abandoned track that was maybe an old spur that used to be here. And now obviously they've modernized this and maybe just like a really old, very low profile rail. I might bend it and bang it up and whatever, make it look really decrepit. And then put this old gondola on there and just make it, you know, make some overgrown grass and weeds and stuff around it. So it looks like there used to be something there and it was just completely abandoned. And then just, you know, trees and things around it. So maybe even an old little structure, you know, with the same kind of look as that. But I'll take, again, any suggestions for that if you have any. And that's basically it. So this is part 9. Let me give you another overview of the whole section. This whole thing here. And I did not have time to include the brewery in this video, so I guess that'll be part 10. And so I will see you then. I'll see you in part 10.